quite a lot of refresher for some of you, but I think it is good just to remind ourselves some of these key principles when it comes to the hard-working VAA. So that's the focus for today. Are you recording, Mohan? Yes. Okay, guys, I don't know if I had to do that. Okay, so as some of you will know, there are the two core strands when it comes to the principle behind HPL, the how to think and how to behave elements of it. Okay, so you've got the ACPs, which hopefully you will all recognise, and the VAAs. I haven't done a Kahoot today, I'm really sorry, but next time there will be a Kahoot quiz on these to make sure that we can all remember them. Okay, so just to get us all started, we have a little reflection, just a talk amongst yourselves. How have you started to incorporate HPL into your pedagogy and daily teaching, and have there been any standout moments? Okay, now I know that HPL at the moment sort of seems to be low on people's list, but we need to start incorporating it. And hopefully you'll have seen in some of the briefings and on the newsletter that goes out to all of you, there have been some really nice examples of best practice within the school. You've got Olivia, who's got the fabulous bowl with the different VAAs outside her room, so the children are really engaging with that. And there's also teachers that are putting it onto their working walls. It's been signposted in books, and obviously we're working towards this world-class school title, and we need to be signposting it as much as possible. So that was just a side note, but just amongst yourselves, just a minute, just to share any ideas and the way you've incorporated it into your pedagogy so far. Okay, off you go.
Yeah, I've been incorporating it with yoga. Like the end of every lesson, the children even normally tend to have like big work.
It'd be nice if they had some kind of stickers. They're more
Okay, as time is a little bit short, I just want to bring us all back, but I'm really hoping that you'll have realised and recognised that quite a lot of us are using it already. Even if we're not signposting it and acknowledging it as HPL, we are actually incorporating these things into our daily practice. And so hopefully we can leave the session as well and be able to highlight that as we go forwards, and you'll be able to notice this in your practice in the next couple of weeks. Does anyone want to share anything before I moved on? I mean, I only gave you a short amount of time. Was there anything that stood out to anybody?
Using it on Dojo, Charlotte was saying, is a really good way at the end of the lessons.
Lovely, yeah.
Other kids for that as well.
Lovely.
So rather than me just do it, like,
give a reason,
so they get a bit more familiar with hard working and stuff.
Yeah.
And creativity.
Yeah, and I think that's really nice. I think I mentioned it in the briefing of the morning that Olivia has children reflecting on the work and their peer assessing the HPL skill that's being used. Oh, I think that she showed resilience because of this, and I think her work showed risk taking. So the children are able to do it for themselves, but also for their peers as well. Thank you, guys. Okay, so we're going to focus today on the VAA hardworking, and the three elements of that are practice, perseverance, and resilience. Okay, and these are all things that we need to have in order to be a good learner and a hardworking learner. And like it says, it can come naturally to some of us, but for others, it does need to be taught, and it's a skill that obviously if we're encouraging it in the classroom, they can see it happening on a regular basis. Okay, so it's an activity now. Okay, again, going to leave it over to you to discuss a time when you have tried something in your lessons over the past week. Now, when I was doing this, something came to my head instantly, and I'm sure it will for all of you. A time when you've been doing something in your lessons over the past week and the children have found it challenging. Okay, what did they find hard about it? What happened, and how did they feel about their learning as a result of that? And what is it that you do to keep them motivated still? Obviously, we are working in a school with the growth mindset and not the fixed mindset, so hopefully that will feed into some of the ideas that you have. And then just to reflect afterwards, if you repeated the activity, would you do anything different, and what would that be? Okay, so a time over the past week the children have found something challenging. There's some things to reflect on there. If you can just share some ideas, I'll give you another couple of minutes for that, and then we'll feed back together. Okay? I'm hoping everyone's got something. I know I do.
With maths, if I'm challenging, every lesson I'm like, oh, I wish I gave them resources at the beginning. So I think they're at a very lower level of maths. So they go straight in. I need to actually go with the basics a lot of the time. I'm finding that I'm like, oh, next time I'm going to start reading some of them. So she's going straight into like the Roman numerals up to 1,000, so they didn't even know the Roman numerals up to 1,000. I was there at my little sheet, and I'm like, yeah.
Interesting with mine, because I've got the sheet that mine actually found that being created. So we were making a model to show how to get day and night, because that's like they were so fixated on my one, they all made something very similar. And in my mind, I thought they were going to be really creative. That's where I think some very high I think
I had all the resources on the table, and we were doing like the numbers larger. I don't know if it's because of physical learning, they don't know how to use resources. They were just sat there, like not using the resources to help them, so like stop, like okay, what philosophy that you need to help you with your learning. So I had like models that you can use, like all like a lot of equipment tables to help you, and kind of model how you can use something to help them, because simply because of the software at home they didn't have equipment. So I feel like they're not confident in maths, or acting like the equipment's on the table, but they don't know what it's for, they don't use it properly. So then I was like trying to stop, so I was like, right, what can you do to help you? And I had a model for right, I can use my 10s and my 1s and help me, but I do notice I've got like physical resources that I've quite worked ahead, don't know how to use them, they just sit there, they don't know how to use. I think that maybe is why they need like training on how to use resources. So it's not really what they can do to help themselves. And I think I don't know.
Okay, guys. Sorry, I know there's some really good conversations happening, and we've just had a really interesting one as well. Emma, did you want to just share what you've just said?
Yes, in maths we were doing comparing numbers, and on the table there's lots of physical resources, and I don't know if it's because they've been at home for the last year and they're not used to using concrete resources, but there's lots of things on the table to support them with their learning, but I find they don't know how to use those resources. They're sort of just sat there, so I kind of had to stop and be like, okay, there's things on your table that you can use, and I had to like model how I can help myself by using the concrete resources. So I find like on the table it's like whiteboard and pens and physical resources, but they don't use the resources, they don't know how to use the things on the table yet. Maybe it's because last year maybe didn't have concrete things, so I had to stop and like model how I can use the things to support myself.
Yeah, I think that's quite key, isn't it? I think some of us are struggling with that element of the fact that we've had remote learning, we've had all of the things that have been going on, but then what we're doing sometimes, yeah, we're having to stop mini plenaries, assessment for learning, all of that, which I'm sure we all do. Was there anybody else that had anything they wanted to add or share?
think things like Numicon need to be taught as well, how to use them.
Yeah, because it's all fine when putting them on the table, but they don't know how
Is it
to.
Numicon or is it something different?
It was tens and ones, but they're just that, and they didn't even reach for them.
No.
So it's just maybe training them to use the things that are on. So something like that, I didn't realise that they would need modelling. Yeah.
And it's also then us using this resilience of we're not going to stop. We're not going to stop trying to get them to understand and appreciate what it is that they're learning. So what is it that we're doing to then ensure that they are still on the same learning journey and they're still going to be able to be successful? So, some of you might have decided, that you saw some success in the activity as being important, and the children are motivated to succeed, which I think would be true for all of our children. I don't think there's any child in this school that isn't motivated to succeed. They all want to do one, they want to be proud of what they're doing, and they should know that it's possible to be successful. That obviously comes across in the way that we deliver our lessons and the way that we support the children. Understanding that it might require practice and perseverance, and hopefully they weren't prepared to fail. Hopefully they weren't willing to accept that they couldn't do it, that there was always going to be a way that we would get them to that final place in the journey. And obviously that's then having someone there to help and encourage and support. Would everyone agree with everything that's on there? Got a few. Okay, so these are the three elements to the hardworking VAA that we have. So you've got practice or deliberate practice, resilience and perseverance. I'm not going to waste time by reading the definitions, but these are things that you do need to be familiar with and the children need to be familiar with. And I believe we will send out a child-friendly presentation for you to share maybe during one of the assemblies. I think we did that last year, and I think it would be good to continue that into this year as well, so then the children are able to articulate exactly what it is that we mean by these behaviours. And then obviously we've got what exactly these things mean. So the mastery of things obviously doesn't come easily, but with practice, with deliberate practice, all of the children can become successful, and it's that purposeful, systematic practice. Now I've seen a lot of this in maths particularly. We're doing all of our reasoning and our problem solving, which is great, but sometimes do the children know how to be systematic? Do they know how to use that fluency and that practice in order to be successful and meet that mastery expectation? And it does require focus and attention, but it can evolve beyond that. I won't get you guys to do this now because I am really conscious of how much time we have, but this is something I really would like you to think about and go away, and if you want to share with anybody or send it to me. But what are the two ways that you can think of that can encourage deliberate practice within your class? And these are all things that we need to be thinking about. How are we going to use this in our practice to then ensure that the children are doing this as well? And there are some ideas here that we can do, but obviously I'd like to hear further from you. But the fluency activities, editing, obviously our curriculum, thinking about the learning process, motivational tools. And I think it's really important to note as well, because I'm around a lot this year, so I'm seeing lots of different plannings across all of the year groups. I think it's really important to note that we are teaching to the top, and then we're scaffolding down. So they're all going on the same journey, we're all going to the same place, they're all trying to meet the same learning objective. Some of them are just going a slightly different way, maybe they have a little bit extra to support them, but they are all going to be high performance learners at the end of it. And I think that's where sometimes some of this gets lost. So the deliberate practice is really important. It's not just a repetition of the same sort of thing. We still want them to be making that progress and making a step into the direction of mastering concepts. I hope that makes sense to everybody. Next one is perseverance. So it's the ability to keep going and not give up even in the face of obstacles and difficulty. And I think this is something that we see a lot on a daily basis. We see a lot of the children being persevering through their tasks. They're struggling. We have that growth mindset concept in school. But but this is obviously the skill that we need to continue to instill. And again, how might this look in our classroom? And we'll give you guys time to think about this one, because I think this one we might get some different ideas shared here. How are you using perseverance? How can you encourage perseverance in your classroom? I just want to see if you guys have any further ideas. Just give you like half a minute if you just share your ideas on that one.
It's amazing explaining why you're doing something, because if they don't understand why they're doing something, they disengage. If they don't, they just give up. They don't understand. If you tell them you're doing this for this reason, especially the big right, so every English lesson they're doing, we work towards a goal. This is going to help you on Thursday, and then they persevere. They love it. Yes, they have to be critical of each other to help with it.
Okay, thanks everybody. Has anyone got anything they'd like to share? I know I'm not giving you much time, but like I said, I'm conscious that we've got a lot to fit in.
Jen,
Yeah.
can I share from FS?
Yes, please do. Yes.
I was saying that actually in FS we have not only the students but also the parents, because they trust us, and the children are coming in school happy, and they don't give up. Every time when they are in a provision and they try new things, everything is new for them because the most didn't go to nursery. We really see that they are learning to be resilient every time that they try new things. So.
No, absolutely, that's so true. Thank you for sharing that. That's lovely. Has anyone else got anything they want to add to that? Is anyone else seeing that in their year groups? I think it's probably very different, isn't it, in FS compared to where we are higher up the school.
When we started this programme, we went to lots of other schools and spoke to lots of other schools, and some schools have avoided doing this in FS because they think it's not possible with curriculum things, but actually most things are easy to implement with FS children, especially secondary children, because they haven't got a preconceived way. This is how it always is, and this is what I do, and this is what I'm good at, and this is what I'm not good at. So I think you're at an advantage, really.
Yeah, they're related to norms, isn't it?
Yeah. People get scared when they start looking at FS kids and these sort of skills that we're talking about today.
But it is actually, as you said, it's already integrated, because the first thing you say, you can do it, trust yourself, and that is also one way of teaching them how to become resilient and think also different.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the key message, isn't it? These are all things that we are doing. We are doing them, but it's just signposting it and highlighting it to the children so that they can then articulate it as well, because we know, but we want the children to articulate it even further and to be able to draw on that behaviour and that skill in their learning independently.
So one of the things I used to do when I taught the older primary classes was actually get them to understand why they're doing what they're doing. So we looked a lot about the careers they wanted to have as they grew older, and where whatever your skill you're teaching those children fits into that career path that they want. And especially over here, because I've never known students to be so university and career driven. It's far different from back in the UK. I would say they're all very much career driven, aren't they? So I think it's particularly thinking about actually the context and why they're doing something is a really
I
nice way
always say that.
to think about it.
I can't motivate my kids if they're sitting there they don't want to do. I say, okay, you do know why we're doing this, and I'm like, well, if you can actually underline your date properly, maybe you might be a good engineer. And then they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense, and we're working towards a goal of the big right. That's why we're doing everything. I think explaining why is the big
interesting. Ask them what they want, jobs they want. I don't know if you haven't done that, but because you've got all sorts of strange, unusual,
like graphic designers.
Yeah,
YouTubers is the next.
Yeah, so that's a nice tool to have, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And I think applying it to like the context of their life. Yeah, we're doing it for this reason. This is the reason that we have for doing all of this. And I think in here somewhere it was real life. I say real life examples, but again, personal. It's to do with them. you know, getting them to reflect, okay, we're going to persevere, but how can we persevere? Well, what have we got in the room that can support us as well? That's another way to get the children to continue with that. The journey stops with them. You know, they've got lots of tools that they can use, and lots of, like we say, they've done practice. We should be structuring the lessons so that they get to that point, and if they are feeling that they are struggling, they can still persevere. Did anyone else have anything else they wanted to add?
Just like in feedback and everything that we've been doing, especially the big rides this morning, I gave them obviously their like targets or the next steps, and then they went back through it and they had 5 minutes and actually read through, and I was like, brilliant, like, you know that you need to use these, and then going over that with pink, and they were like, oh, I've done it now, like, just taking that time and giving them the time to read back through things. It's like really important because it all feeds in.
Yeah, they can
like,
see the benefit of it,
exactly.
ultimately. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that. Okay, so then the last one is resilience, and I think there's sometimes a little bit of, I don't know, we kind of overlap perseverance and resilience. It's about how do we separate those two concepts. And this was actually shared last year with the children in their assembly to understand the VAA hardworking. I won't read it to you. I'll give you a minute to read it. It's very. I think it's an interesting way to look at resilience, and a good way for the children to understand what resilience actually is. I won't ask you all to give me a thumbs up when you're done, but hopefully that makes sense to everybody, and would actually be a very good way to share this, like I say, with the children, because obviously you have that sort of roller coaster of maybe I understand something, I've got it, and then when you start to apply it, maybe I'm not so sure anymore. You know, how is it that you're going to then continue to go on your journey and continue to be a successful high performance learner? Did anyone have anything they wanted to add? Or
there's a really good YouTube video. Do you know Class Dojo has Mojo Monster? You ever watch those videos?
Yeah.
But they have one about resilience. So he gets stuck in the dip, and he's like, "How do I get out of the dip?" And then it's his journey getting out. But they're only little short videos, but they're brilliant for that.
Very useful. We used them in PSHE in year 5. Remember that?
the ones
Way
from last
before COVID, yeah.
Yes, I do remember from a couple of years ago. Yeah, I think so. Just getting the children to see it in their context. We can say resilience, we can say perseverance, but those words don't really mean anything to them until we show them exactly what we mean by that.
So when my kids are stuck, I'm like, "Oh, you're in the dip." They're like, "You know what to do now to get out of it." So
Yeah.
they're like, "Oh, I know."
And this is it's everywhere, isn't it? I mean, I remember years ago when I was back in the UK and we had the learning pit. It's all the same idea, but this is our signpost. This is the HPL element that we're signposting so the children can articulate it more successfully, if that makes sense. Were you going to say something there, Jeremy?
Yeah, one of the most interesting factors you've got now as a group, with the exception of FS, is you've got this E group. And quite often our more able children are the least resilient children we have in the school, because they tend to naturally do things. And one of the challenges I think you need to face and we need to face is actually these children need to fail. You know, they need to come to a challenge they can't do straight away and fail it, and then have to build these skills, because you'll find it they respond quite often in very different ways to what you would expect. But yeah, I think they're a group definitely to look at. So when you're head of year and you look at your regroup, you look at your planning and the work, actually are they being challenged is the first question, because it's going to be a really hard challenge for you to make sure they are challenged. And where do they get the opportunity to fail? Because they need to, because life is not far off for them, and everyone fails at some point, don't they? They have to get up and be resilient. So particularly look at that E group when you're looking at resilience, I would suggest.
Yeah, definitely. So again, this is something for us just to reflect on. I think probably we've covered that with the things that we've discussed, but again, please do go away and think about how it is that you're going to encourage and develop resilience in your classroom. ESET definitely is one to consider, like Jeremy says, but how else in your classroom and in your year groups or in your subject do you think that we could encourage the resilience skill? So there's a video. I'm not sure it's going to work on my laptop, but you can see this hard work in action. So this is just applying it to sort of a physical idea where we can see the hard-working behaviour in a simple task such as learning to ride a bike. So obviously you've got to start by finding your balance. It's managing the different levels of it as well, so it's balance and then using the pedals as well as keeping your balance. You've got the resilience in the face of difficulty, then applying the brakes and steering. So there's all these different facets that lead to us being able to be successful, but you need to have the skill of perseverance the whole time, the deliberate practice that's coming in here, and then that resilience. All of them go hand in hand together in making us a successful hard worker. But I won't show the clips now because it's been a bit dodgy for me. But does that make sense to everybody? Is that clear, that visual? Again, we're hoping to do a child-friendly version. So the children can also see that. But again, practice plus perseverance and resilience, we can be successful learners. Yes.
I just think
Yes, of course you can.
it might be quite nice if we can get like parents involved and send some parent stuff out, because I've got a really nice parent of mine, and she took him to Wild Buddy, and he did the like surfboarding thing, and he couldn't do it, and she was using all the HPL skills, and she knew what all of the worlds were. Yeah, she's such a nice mum. And then she took him back again, and she said that he was resilient, he never gave up, and that he kept going, and he was so much better, and he understood that as well. So she's using the HPL language outside of school as well.
And certainly that's what we want. That's really important. I think that's
reading books, and so it's quite nice if the parents know the language as well.
Yeah.
They can use it on the weekends.
I'm really glad you said that, because that's something that I sort of wanted to put out to everybody anyway. I think I said it in the last HPL meeting that we did, the Tuesday after school one that we did. We really would like to get parents involved in this. It's to spread it out into the community, and so that everybody's using this language and everybody knows and understands it, so that the children can then also articulate it better in school. So absolutely, that's a really nice example. And
That diary that we did,
but I was going to say that spring HPL diary was lovely last year, so we could try and run with one of those again. Absolutely, but I think 100% you're right, getting the parents on board with this vocabulary and these behaviours and ideas are certainly a really good way for us to move this forward even further. And I think as part of being a world-class school, we need to be ensuring that the parents are engaging with it as well. So yeah, I think maybe we can try and find a way to share that, like you say, that example.
Like a diary, and we choose one HPL skill, and they kind of create a book over the week and have a picture.
You think you'd made the example, didn't you?
Well, I can do it again. We can do it for like winter break, for like your winter
But
guys.
we could do it every week, so like they make a book every single week and create that whole book over the year. So we stick to HPL.
Passport bit, they're looking
The
at.
passport
Yeah.
links to community generally and engagement, because we're not great with our community for various reasons, including COVID. So I think the original concept of passport was to cover that aspect.
But you know what?
We'll link to it though.
Scott was talking about something similar. Put together some activities.
There'll be elements within the passport that will. Do you know about passport? No.
Not yet.
So after half term, we're going to be launching something called the HPL Passport, which is a series of activities, a bit like the junior level of Duke of Edinburgh Award. Okay, there's a whole range of activities the children do across the curriculum and community that they do in their own time to build up towards a badge. And with all the badges, they've got literally a passport. They record what they've done, when they've done, we sign it off. So it's a bit like, like if you're a cub or a scout, you used to do things in a little book to get your badges. It's a bit like that. And then they'll have badges for their lanyards, all these different badges that they can build up over the time. And it's broken into 3 different phases for 3 different parts of school. So yeah, that's coming soon.
They look very nice as well. I've seen.
Great.
They look great.
Yeah, it'd be great. But it covers everything from art to music to French to Arabic, Islamic to doing voluntary work, all sorts of things.
So we've got that obviously to start us off with, and if we feel that there's any areas that we want to add to, perhaps we could do that competition as well.
Next of years, could do like a little bit of a HPL webinar for parents in their year group, so they can scaffold it depending on like the year one, we would introduce it in a different way, so year 6 for example. So it'll just educate the parents a little bit that way, and then if we do send out the diary, the parents will already know it. We have one for parents fandom.
We've got a range of HPL stuff.
There's live assemblies in the calendar.
Yeah, assemblies would be a place to do it, wouldn't it? Assembly
within that, that's how we would do it. So we would do a live assembly, but we would talk to the children, but then on the side be like, and parents, this is it. That's the way that we.
Yeah.
So it's 2 in 1.
Going back to your original point about capturing the outside school, I don't know whether the little ones, we used to have a class there, or what, something in it, but the book we used to go home. I don't know if we can do that in COVID times at the moment, but if they took the book home at the weekend to show their HPL values and recorded whatever they choose to, like the wild body.
Send them the reading books home, so.
Yeah. That's just an idea. It's nice to capture what they do outside of school, the sort of language, and they come in and share it using their language.
Yeah, definitely. Right, just because of the time. So, how can we create the conditions to best allow hardworking to take place? So, really, it's introducing the idea that hard work trumps the ability that we have, and again that links to the Express class, isn't it? You know, you're not going to find everything easy, and we don't give up. We keep saying it, and we remind our students, which I think we all do anyway. Creating some sayings that you can use routinely to reinforce this. Hard work beats talent. When talent doesn't work hard, nothing worth having comes easy. You get what you work for, not what you wish for. Obviously, we can friendly those up a little bit more. Talking about the fact that getting stuck and even failing are just a natural part of the learning process, which I think we all do as well. You know, the idea is that we do make mistakes, but we learn from them. At the start of every lesson, explaining that what you'll be doing in the lesson, but why it's important, which is what you were saying, Tara, and where it fits into the topic and within real life context. And then drawing attention to the fact that some of us might find tasks easier than others. We're all different learners, but again, it's the idea that we are all high performance learners. We don't have high ability and low ability. We are all on the same journey, but some of us might get there quicker. Some of us might need a little bit more to get us there. So success is that we all master it. We're all going to achieve our learning objective. And that is the end of the presentation. Did anyone have any questions? And my cats.
They're not very resilient, are they?
No, they're very sleepy.
That is so cute.
So thanks guys. If you do have any questions you want to ask me, feel free. I'm always here to talk about HPL. But thank you so much for attending and for participating. I really appreciate it.
Thanks
everyone.
Thanks, Jen. Thanks, Jen.
Thank you.
Have a good day all.